I'm about to share with you tonight is something deeply personal. Not quite a secret, but something personal. When I was 7, not quite 8 years old, I fell in love. Not love the way you might think, not with a person, but with something. This is 7, not quite 8-year-old Amanda. Now, in addition to being toothless and liking ice cream cones without an actual ice cream scoop in it, I saw a movie that had a scene in it that changed my life. That movie was Pretty Woman. And we can talk about why a 7, not quite 8-year-old saw Pretty Woman, but I digress. But in that part of the movie, there's a very special scene where Julia Roberts gets to go to the opera for the first time, and she hears this. Nearly 8-year-old Amanda's mind was blown. I never grew up in an opera-loving household. My parents were not fans, and that was the first time I had ever been exposed to true opera. Not the Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny opera, but real opera. And what happened was I developed a love for opera, such as it was, to the point where I wear my love loud and proud. Now, as you can imagine, growing up in a household that my parents weren't opera fans, I didn't get to go to the opera. In fact, I didn't have any other way of seeing opera except to rewind that one scene in Pretty Woman over and over and over again. And I didn't know what the woman singing was talking about, but I knew that I loved it. I felt something in here. Now, when I meet people and I tell them I love opera, I get varied reactions. My first love does not get a whole lot of love from other people. Some reactions are, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Why do you like that? But I only speak English. Don't you sing in like German or something? And then the last and often most common is, boring. I'm not going to spend 3 hours to fall asleep. But let me tell you, let me opine, if you will, why my first love deserves a fighting chance. My love is special, it's historic, and it's worthy of everyone's attention. So the first thing I would tell you is it's not noise, but an art form. Whether you are sitting in the front row or sitting way up high in the nosebleed sections, when you're able to hear that soprano hit her high note, it's from the power of her own voice, her diaphragm. Opera singers do not wear microphones. They convey emotion and they tell a story. In my favorite opera, Eugene Onegin, Tatiana falls in love and she writes a letter and Onegin rejects her and she's crushed and she marries somebody else. And then he wants her again, and now she rejects him. Riveting stuff, I tell you, riveting. And it tells a story that makes you feel. The next thing I would tell you about my love is that if you don't speak English, that's okay. Whenever you go to the opera, they have the libretto or the lyrics that the singers are singing projected on a screen high above the stage. So no matter where you are, you know what's going on. Also, the programs have very detailed summaries in them so you can understand what is happening in the actual opera itself, even if you're not really following line for line. The last thing I can offer is to rent an opera whisperer, i.e. me. If you want to go to the opera but don't want to go by yourself, call me up. I'll pay my own way. I will show up. I will also, if given enough notice, appear in costume. So Wagner didn't know that I was going to come along a couple hundred years after his opera Die Walküre and dress up like a Valkyrie one year for Halloween. The last thing I would tell you about my opera, and it's kind of a secret, so don't let it go beyond this room. Opera houses are actively recruiting younger fans. So, ticket prices, depending on what night you go and what time, can start as low as $20. They are producing new operas, whether it's about Anna Nicole Smith, or, believe it or not, or new tellings of older stories. And last but not least, you can go to the movie theater now and see a live production from the Metropolitan Opera in New York City for a movie ticket. And opera is an art form hundreds of years old, so whether you want to see something traditional, like Strauss's Der Rosenkavalier, or something newer, like Adams' Nixon in China, we'll find something for you. And the last thing I would leave you with is remember 7-year-old, not quite 8-year-old Amanda. When given the chance, she saw something that she loved, and without any preconceived notions, fell in love with it. So give opera a chance. Give My First Love a chance.